morning sun poured through the wide glass windows of the cafe, bright and unforgiving, as if it had no mercy for secrets. Ethan Rowe sat stiffly at a small round table, fingers wrapped around a paper cup he had already forgotten to drink from, wondering for the 100th time why he had let his co-workers convince him to come. He was a single father, barely holding his life together, exhausted by night shifts, school runs, unpaid bills, and the quiet grief of a wife lost too soon. A blind date felt like a cruel joke, and judging by the tight smiles exchanged between the people who had set this up, it probably was. He did not know yet that this ordinary-looking morning was about to fracture everything he believed about pity, power, and second chances. If you believe that kindness can still change lives, and that second chances come when we least expect them, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Midnight Tales. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Ethan had been told very little, only that the woman was kind, quiet, and had been through a lot. What they didn't tell him, and what he would later realize was deliberate, was that she used a wheelchair, or that she was the chief executive of the very company he cleaned offices for at night. When Alina Cross was wheeled toward the table by a well-dressed assistant who gently placed a folder in her lap, Ethan's first reaction was panic. Not disgust or fear, but the sharp terror of knowing he was unprepared. He had dressed simply, spoken too casually, and walked in already assuming he was the punchline of a joke. His co-workers had whispered that this would be good for him, that he needed to get out, but their smirks now echoed in his head like laughter. Alina noticed everything. She noticed the way his shoulders tensed, the way his eyes flicked to the wheelchair, and then away, as if ashamed of noticing. She noticed how quickly he straightened his back, as if trying to become more respectable in an instant. Years earlier, after an accident that shattered her spine and rewrote her future, she had learned to read people the way others read contracts. Some saw her chair before they saw her face. Others saw her wealth once they recognized her name. Very few ever saw the woman who had rebuilt herself piece by piece in a world that preferred her silent and grateful. The cafe buzzed with daytime life. Business people checked watches. Students typed furiously on laptops. Sunlight glinted off polished floors. It was the kind of place where everything looked successful from the outside. Ethan felt painfully out of place. He spoke about his son, Noah, because it was the safest topic he knew. He described school mornings, packed lunches, and the way Noah pretended not to be scared at night. He did not complain, but the weight of responsibility clung to every word. Alina listened without interruption, her hands resting calmly in her lap, her expression unreadable yet warm. What Ethan did not know was that Alina had chosen this blind date herself. She had overheard staff talking about the janitor who worked double shifts, who once turned down overtime to attend a school play, who never complained even when treated as invisible. Curiosity had led her to ask questions, and something about his quiet resilience reminded her of herself after the accident, when people assumed her life was over simply because it looked different. She had asked her assistant to arrange the meeting without names or titles. She wanted honesty, unfiltered by fear or flattery. The first real challenge came when Ethan finally asked about her chair, his voice careful but sincere. There was no pity in his eyes, only concern about saying the wrong thing. Alina explained her accident in simple terms, focusing not on loss, but on adaptation. She spoke of relearning balance, not just physically but emotionally, of discovering that strength was not always loud. Ethan felt something loosen in his chest. For the first time in years, he was not being judged for his exhaustion or his modest life. He was simply present. As the morning stretched on, the trick revealed itself slowly and painfully. A cafe manager approached, greeting Alina with visible respect, thanking her for stopping by before a board meeting upstairs. Ethan froze. The assistant handed Alina a tablet filled with financial charts. The truth settled between them like heavy air. The woman in front of him was not just his date. She was the CEO of Crossline Holdings, the company whose logo was stitched on the uniform he wore at night. Embarrassment burned through Ethan. He assumed the worst instantly, that this had all been a test or a joke designed to expose his place. He stood abruptly, apologizing for wasting her time, his voice tight with humiliation. Years of being overlooked, of feeling small, rose up at once. He expected her to let him go, to smile politely, and return to her powerful world. Instead, Alina asked him to sit back down. She did not reveal her title with pride, but with regret, explaining that she wanted 1 hour where she was not a position or a symbol. She admitted that people either feared her or used her, rarely treating her as human. She told him that his coworkers had suggested the date thinking it would be amusing, but she had allowed it because she wanted to meet him as Ethan, not as an employee looking up at her from a polished floor. The struggle shifted then, from misunderstanding to vulnerability. Ethan confessed his anger at being tricked, his fear of being looked down on, his exhaustion from carrying everything alone. Alina shared the loneliness of leadership, the isolation that came with both wealth and disability, the constant pressure to prove she was still capable in a world obsessed with appearances. Two lives, wildly different on the surface, mirrored each other in unexpected ways. By the time the sun climbed higher and the cafe began to empty, something fragile and honest had formed between them. There was no dramatic promise, no sudden romance, just a quiet understanding that respect mattered more than status, and that dignity was not tied to standing or sitting, to wealth or struggle. Days later, Ethan's life began to change, not through charity but through recognition. His schedule was adjusted so he could attend Noah's school events. His hard work was acknowledged openly. Alina never crossed professional boundaries, but she made sure kindness was woven into the company culture, starting from the bottom up. For Ethan, the greatest gift was not opportunity, but being seen. And for Alina, watching Ethan walk confidently into his future reminded her that power meant nothing if it was not used to lift others. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel something real, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video so more people can experience stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Special request: comment below and tell us which moment moved you the most and why. Under the bright light of an ordinary day, two broken assumptions had quietly healed, proving that sometimes the greatest truths are revealed not in darkness, but in the courage to see one another clearly.